Okay, class, this is week 5. I am making a video number 1 to discuss your projects more, uh, more in the lines of what I would do if it was my project. Um, but some of it's duplication from last week. Uh, the video was posted so late last week on Thursday. Well, it wasn't really late. It was on Thursday morning. Um, but there was a problem with it that I found out about later on Friday. Um, Somehow, at about 22 minutes, like the last 10 or 12 minutes of the video were cut off as far as the audio. Um, and I can explain what happened. Part of what I was doing was I was showing the difference between various platforms for recording video for classes, etc. That interaction and how everything works together. Now, with that said, when I was sharing my screen on Kaltura Media, and as soon as I quit sharing my screen, it seems like that's when my video um, canceled out, or not my video. That's when the little hiccup happened with the audio. So just because we choose technology doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Uh, doesn't mean that we're not going to have problems, doesn't mean any of that. Like I keep saying or have said in the past, and I think I said in my video, the only thing that really researching anything does is it increases the likelihood of success or likelihood of understanding something. So if I am analyzing data to make a business decision, I am literally only increasing the odds that whatever decisions I make are going to be successful, are going to be fruitful based on the data. I'm making educated guesses instead of just opinions or just flat out guesses pulled from the air. I'm sorry. Apologize for the coughing. I'm not sick. I went to a concert last night. I went and saw Jack White at Pine Knob in Detroit. Well, Clarkston. Anyway, awesome concert. If you ever get to go, lots of energy, great time. Anyway, so the same thing happens when we look for technology. You know, when Northwood went down the path years ago at trying to determine what LMS learning management system we were going to have, you know, we had a choice back then between Canvas, Moodle. Well, no, Canvas didn't exist. Or did it? Yeah, Canvas existed. Canvas, Moodle. There was another one that was open source, and I can't remember what it was, or Blackboard. And when they polled the faculty, they asked us what we wanted. We were like, well, we want Canvas. And instead they chose Blackboard. We don't know why they chose Blackboard. We don't know what all the decision-making process was. Recently, we just renewed our contracts with Blackboard, and we updated to the latest edition of Blackboard and stuff. And we're still working out some of the hiccups from that. The integration with Kaltura Media that we were doing our recording in changed. The features changed. I don't have as much editing capabilities and stuff like I was saying, I believe. I can't remember if I made it through the active presenter and stuff like that. That might be where it cut out. I don't remember. No, I don't think it is. Anyway, I'd have to go back and look. But Active Presenter gives me all of these tools that I can edit. YouTube, which I'm using today for this, because I wanted to use a different platform to show you the difference. Right now, I've just set up a live YouTube session. I have it recording. I'm able to share my screen without a problem and so on. Now I'm wondering if my microphone's actually working because I don't see anything moving. We'll find out. Anyway, I might have to record this whole thing over again. We'll find out. So, oh, it says it's in use. Okay. Whew. So I decided to use YouTube. YouTube, like I was saying, has more editing capabilities in it, and it's more widely used by people. I can integrate the YouTube videos by embedding them into documents in Blackboard. I can still make quizzes and stuff on those YouTube videos. I can actually put a quiz attached to the YouTube video that you have to answer and so on. So I can still create something where it gets graded, etc. So there's that. I like this environment. The only reason I don't use it more often is because it's not as integrated, where like for me, the little icon up at the top right-hand corner, which my video's flopped. I got to look at how I changed that. But anyway, my upper right-hand corner has my image, because it's my YouTube account. One of the advantages to using Northwood stuff is that's on Northwood's system, and that's their problem to protect and all these other things. Making my videos available on YouTube through my account creates a new problem, and that is that I'm giving up some of my privacy potentially, because now my username and everything else, and it's easy to look at other things. If you were to look, what you would notice is you'd be like, oh, he looks up a lot of stuff about bass guitars. He looks up a lot of stuff about camping, and he watches gambling videos, because what better things do I have to do at 1 a.m. in my bed when I have nothing else to do and I can't sleep? So I watch a couple random people that actually gamble. It's like, I don't gamble. That's my way of gambling, I guess. Anyway, but the idea is that I lose some privacy by using my own subscriptions to things and stuff of that nature. But then again, my students gain access. They gain access in the sense that YouTube works on everything. YouTube works on our phones. It works on Chromebook. It works on just about every device that you can think of. So it works better on an iPhone and an iPad and Chromebook than Blackboard does. So there's advantages there. If I can record it and put a link or embed it in, and you click on it and it takes you out to YouTube, much better opportunity for people to actually be part of it. The other thing is with the chat is something that we can do live. Chat it through Teams is a pain because of the way people do it. It doesn't roll through the same way a YouTube chat does, especially during a live recording or a live session. Now, that's where things could become interesting, though, because one of the things that we have to do in teaching online is we have to make sure that students are engaged. Well, if we have a live scrolling chat, you can choose one student each week to be the moderator of the chat and pull those questions out and ask those questions and stuff. So there's ways of handling that, and it also just gives you a better transcript of the questions asked in the chat and everything else, because that chat can scroll. I can actually have it say, no, I want you to show the scrolling chat in the video replay, or I can have it not show that, which I don't think I have it showing it this time because no one's in it. It's just me. So there's that. Let's see. Sharing the screen and stuff, pretty much the same. I'm going to hit this little screen share button And I'm going to choose that I'm going to share my entire screen. Make sure my wife doesn't have something open before I do that, because she does bills on here. So let me make sure that that stuff's closed. Let's see, save. Okay. Now I can show it. There. Which is always the challenge to using your home computer for, and we should talk about that too. I don't know if I'll do that today or next class, but anyway, um, I'll talk about it today because it has to do with this project too. So I don't want to share my system audio. All I need is my entire screen. That one, share. Okay. So all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's infinity. That is what infinity looks like, people. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I did not want to do that. So let me unshare. And unlike Kaltura, when I shared and I unshared, it all of a sudden made it easier for me to get right back to what I was doing. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pull a window out, go back into here, and now I'm going to share just the window I want to share. So I'm going to share this window. Okay, so now you can see the window that I'm sharing, etc. Okay, and you can still see me in the lower corner. You can see my mouse move on that when I'm on it. All kinds of nice little things. Okay, but this is one way that you can handle doing screen share and stuff in here. It's a lot easier to switch back and forth between sharing and not sharing. It's actually just a hair easier because the button for stop sharing and sharing is right out in the open. Where Teams, if I was doing something like this, I actually have to go through a little menu, click it, a little menu icon, click it, and find out of the list which one has share and not share and all that stuff too, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's been about a couple weeks since I've had to do something like that, so I can't remember just off the top of my head. I'm going to open this because, well, I can. I'm already logged in. And let me go back in here. And I'm going to go to our class right here. And then I'm going to go to week 5 and week 5 assignments. It's already posted, so that's all there. And I would actually hit create, and I can create a link to a YouTube video, or I can create a document. Inside the document, I can go to content. Inside of content, I can actually embed media or choose a YouTube video or what have you. Okay. So there's ways of handling this stuff in a way that is a little more seamless for students than having to go to my YouTube channel every time. Again, there are other advantages. Instead of you going to weekly folders and having to search for the previous videos, so let's say you're like, oh man, he talked about databases and relational databases. What week was that? Let me go through. Now I got to find the video and all this other stuff. Instead of that, what you end up having is I'm going to close that. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop sharing. Cancel that. There. Cancel. Close. Why is it not closing? There. It created that. Delete that. There. Okay, so now I'm back to normal out there. I'm going to shrink that. Now I'm going to show my entire screen. Entire screen. Boom. Share. And here is our wonderful world of infinity. And yeah, if you ever want, like I said before, if you want to see a picture of infinity, show something like this. But at the end of the day, if I was to go over here, well, it's not going to allow it. If I was to go to here, I think I can do this without it doing what I think it might do. If I was to go to here, I can actually go to my playlist, for instance. I can actually create a playlist for this class, and all kinds of different things of that nature. So there's that. And in creating that, I'll stop sharing again. In creating that playlist, it gives students a way of looking at all of the videos for the class. They'll see the time and date. Also, I can include a description of what that is. This video will have a description that says that this is about something about last week, but talking about the project from my viewpoint. Okay. So anyway, so there are so many different tools that we can use to edit video and to provide live sessions. You know, you have Zoom, you have Teams, you have Google Meet, or whatever it is. I can't remember. Let me look. Why can't I remember? I see contacts, I see calendar. I can't remember what it's called. I'm looking to see if I can find it real quick. Is it this? Yeah, Google Meet. Okay. So Google Meet's another way that we could do it. Google Meet's different because it's more like a team situation where each individual has a different spot on the box and all this other stuff, which is an advantage for a classroom setting. So here I am, I'm weighing benefits and disadvantages of different pieces of software, different technology that I could integrate into my class to improve how everything works for you guys. So with that said, for me to teach class using this live session, how do I determine who's here and who isn't here? Number one. Number two, for you to be taking part in the chat, you're not using your Northwood account, you're using your private account. So if Joe Smith is in my class, Joe Smith's YouTube or Gmail is what's accessing YouTube. So if he's commenting and everything like that, those comments and stuff are going to come through as that. So how do I take role is my point. Okay. That's where a moderator might be helpful. It might be helpful at the very beginning because I mean, I can view participants and I can see I have at Mr. DASANSVSU, and then I'd see Mr. at J Smith, and I'd see Mr. at or Mrs. at such and such, or Miss at such and such. And I can see that in the participants, but how do I put that together with the actual name of the people? So one of the very first things I would have to tell people and trust that people knew to do is type your name in the chat. Very first thing at the beginning of class, before I say a word, I would say, okay, now everybody type your name in the chat, and it would create that list of names. And if you're in that list, then I mark you as here. If you're not, you're absent. You don't have to worry about that as much with you don't have to worry about that as much with what's going on in our environment, because this is asynchronous education where we don't meet at a specified time that is actually required. Where I do teach some online classes that are real-time online where you have to be there, that matters. Okay. The other thing about this environment is I can't require anyone to turn on their camera. So if we were in a test or something, I wouldn't have everyone's face showing on the screen. So that creates issues. So I'm weighing out all the benefits and disadvantages of using YouTube as my primary live content um, method for a class. Now, it works great for creating a video like this. Works awesome. I can just create the video, post the link. You guys can go to it. You can see everything. If anyone was here during the live session and they were chatting, you'd be able to see their chat and not just have to listen. This is a different environment. Okay. This can provide more feedback to me more quickly because there's always this little button up top that asks me, gives you guys the option to say, hey, thumbs up if you actually like this video or stuff like that. So there's that. So I could say, hey, if you got something out of this lecture, give me a thumbs up. Now, that just brought something to my mind where students are like, yeah, but this is your YouTube content. So if I thumbs up it, are you getting monetary value out of this? And my answer is no, because I don't stream that way. But is there a potential that somebody could do that? Now, there comes a new issue educationally. That's a new issue for you guys in a work environment. If you are providing a video to people via YouTube and doing a live session like this, and you're recording it in your YouTube, and you monetize that, and people are going to be referring back to that over and over and over again, are you reaping benefits from it? That would be a big question I would ask as an employer. I'd be like, okay, no, you can't use this because number one, what you're talking about and what you're creating is, for me, your employer, I technically own that. Well, I'm creating it for you, the employer. You do technically own that. Now, what are all the legalities involved? So, I mean, there is more to think about than just does the task fit the technology. There's a lot of gray area in that. So always be careful how you do things, number one. Number two, I had mentioned something about personal devices. YouTube works on everything. But if I'm requiring you to watch or not, well, you can watch this without me getting your information, okay? Because you don't have to be logged into YouTube to watch my YouTube video. If you are logged in, that's on your choice, but it's not a requirement to be logged in. You might get a commercial here or there, something of that nature. But live session, you would have to log in. And if you're logging in, that creates a issue that I kind of hold close to the chest. I don't know how to really say it, but it bothers me when employers and that require me to use my personal device. By the way, that's a picture of my son. Anyway, it bothers me when I feel that I have to use my personal device when things infringe on my personal life. It breaks up that work-life balance that I have. It raises stress levels because you feel this necessity to be logged in and invested at all times. There's a challenge as soon as you start asking people to use their personal accounts and stuff to access this stuff. That's why you don't want to use your Gmail account to do anything with work emails and stuff like that. That should be your own stuff. That should be private stuff. I don't receive emails through Gmail and stuff like that from work. I refuse to do that. Now, on the other hand, I have used my work email as a contact point for other things, and that creates cloudiness there. So, as a matter of fact, I hardly ever use my Gmail. My Gmail is all spam. I don't even look at it unless I know for a fact that somebody sent me something, and I can search just by name or whatever. Um, so hopefully you're getting a gist of the way my brain, and everyone tells me I'm wired a little different, which is fine. But it's how my brain deals with that critical thinking, that logical processing of benefits, cost benefit analysis of using something. It's not just money. There's always something. It's like I tell my son, everything costs something. If it costs you time, if it costs you energy, or if it costs you money, or if it costs you, well, energy would be anxiety, right? Energy is physical exhaustion, whatever. But at the end of the day, everything costs something. What are you giving up to get this? Is what I'm trying to get at. So it's not just, does this integrate with what I currently have? It's, does this integrate? Is it more seamless than other programs and stuff like that? What are the features that it offers versus the features that my workers want? When we chose Kaltura Media, there are so many. The Active Presenter works with LMS. I don't know why we're using Kaltura Media. Kaltura Media has some editing tools, but it's nowhere near as powerful as if I wanted to use Active Presenter to create videos and put them out there. Like I can create them and upload them to Kaltura and then use those Kaltura videos in, but that's like so many more steps. I can also use that Active Presenter and automatically upload, if I pay for it, I can automatically have it upload to my YouTube, and then all I have to do is provide you a single YouTube channel link in the course pack in the Blackboard shell. I could put that right above the weekly folders where, you know, that content folder, I could put a link up there that says, hey, all videos are posted here. And that would take you out to the playlist and you would choose what you wanted to watch. And this has more editing capabilities than Kaltura. Or I could use Active Presenter, create my videos, post them on Blackboard, and still provide you just that link. My point being is there are many, many options. Advantages, disadvantages, cost, all this other stuff comes into play. But the things that people don't always think about are those other costs of, I'm through here, if I'm using this for live sessions, I would almost say that I shouldn't be allowed to use it for live sessions, because Northwood, one of our things educationally is that all communication should be going through Blackboard, or not Blackboard, but through your Northwood email address. Okay. So when you email me, it should be from Northwood and it should be to Northwood. And now you're messaging from the course instead of sending an email. I end up receiving an email saying that you put a message in Blackboard. I still prefer an email. It's easier for me to see. If I showed you what it shows up on my end as, you'd be like, oh, that might be why he didn't see it right away, because it doesn't come through as your name. It comes through as message in Blackboard. So I get all these notifications from Blackboard, and in those 15 notifications from Blackboard, because I post stuff and people submit stuff and everything else, I have to differentiate, well, which one of these is actually communication directly to me. So there's that. But anyway, forcing you to come out here and utilize this, I don't know, maybe as a response to this video, if you watch it to this point, send me an email and tell me, do you, because I don't think I've ever tried this, do you have to have no, you have to take part in a chat. Verify for me. To take part in a chat on YouTube, do you have to be logged into YouTube? That's what I'm curious. Or if it just comes in as anonymous. I guess I've never tried that because I'm always permanently logged into YouTube, which most of us are. Now, that's the other thing. I have a kid. I don't put YouTube on everything because I have a kid. Um, if you're parents and you kind of boycott YouTube in your household, which there are people that do that, so don't think I'm weird by saying that. I don't do that, but if you were to do that, everyone parents differently, and but I have to recognize that, right? That everybody parents differently. So, am I putting anyone at a disadvantage by using YouTube? To show this video, I don't think so. I'll be providing a link. It lets you watch it from inside a Blackboard. That's besides the point. But as far as like having people be able to do a live session and stuff, that creates new things. But this is the thought process I have as I'm thinking through my alternatives for software integration to improve what, okay? And for the task or the process that I'm speaking of, the process and task I'm talking of is student engagement. How do I provide live content and videos to my students in a way that most easily allows them to access it and allows the most engagement? And YouTube fits the bill, and YouTube is one of those things that I don't think costs a whole lot of money still. I think you can do almost everything on here for free still. Yeah, you have to have a free account, but I think you have to, and it does integrate with Blackboard. So there's all these different options. Anyway, so that's where my mind goes. And that's the discussion I would have behind that. And I would be like, okay, well, if I don't want my students to end up getting advertisements in the middle or before a video or something like that, what are the steps that I have to take to make sure there aren't any? Number one. Number two, I don't think I've ever checked. Are there actually, because I pay for, I don't, my wife pays for YouTube Red, I think it's called, where it's a family plan. You get rid of all your advertisements and videos and stuff. Is that something that students have to do, not to see any commercial before they see my video? That would be a question I have, which is another question you could answer in an email. What other drawbacks are there? Because I know I haven't thought of everything. And that's where the discussion board comes in handy, is you have ideas. You can post that through on discussion board. On the discussion board, you can say, hey, this is the technology I'm looking at using. I'm looking at improving communication for project management teams. And I'm looking at YouTube as an option. Here's what I've already listed out as advantages, disadvantages, cost benefit analysis. Do you see anything I'm missing? And you get other people's thought process on that. I might have actually said some things during this that you weren't thinking about, because one of the things is one of the main business processes that people totally forget when they're doing these projects. They're thinking about, well, how do I automate a task? How do I do this? How do I do that? One of the biggest things in industries right now is collaboration, remote collaboration. How do I best do that? I mean, my brother-in-law works in an industry where they're using Slacker. Anyway, one of the chat companies, where WhatsApp was being used, and all these other instant chats and stuff that weren't just, they're not just being done through Teams. And why isn't Teams being used? Is your technology team using a third-party software to communicate without you even knowing that they're doing it? That would be a question that I would ask. Another thing that I would do is don't assume, because you're an outsider looking at a process. Even if you're involved in a process, you're still this outsider. You've got a very limited role in most processes. So don't assume just because you don't assume just because you oh, how do I want to word it? Don't assume just because you God, don't assume that you need new technology. Number one, sometimes one of the biggest answers to a technological problem you're having is retraining people on the technology you do have. That can save a lot of money. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to actually try to sit down with people that perform these tasks, that use the software you currently have and stuff, and say, okay, well, how do we do this? And then look at the technology you have, because a lot of times the technology you have can fulfill other needs. Um, One of the things I can think of, um, let me share my screen. Let me share that window again. I'll show you something. Sure. Okay. Um, so in here, when I click this button here and I go to create, I also have this thing called Content Market. And if I go to Content Market, I can see all of the different tools that we actually utilize, okay, or that we can integrate with. And there are tools in here that a lot of us have never used, okay? Um, like I can't remember what Willis Labs is. I know what Yellow Dig is. Yellow Dig is another piece of software that allows you to do virtual classes and stuff. It allows people to take part in other ways, increasing interaction and stuff like that. So we do have faculty that use that. Well, that is integrated with Blackboard. So there is another tool there that I could use for this. Um, some of these other ones I haven't used a lot of, but there's my Turnitin stuff. Okay, I can use Turnitin, of course, to check for plagiarism, all that stuff, but it integrates in. I don't have to create a third-party account, where some people might not even realize that it's integrated into here, that I can do that. Okay. There's NetTutor. I'm looking to see if there was anything else in here that I can't remember. Oh, Microsoft Education Collaboration. Okay, so we can actually utilize collaboration tools in 365. So just Teams actually work in that sense. If I click on that, I don't know what it does until I actually click on it and see what it allows me to do. Okay. And as I go, it's going to ask me to name my document, do this, hit create. Oh, well, that's a way for me to create a document that my students can share. So if you guys had a capstone project, I could do something like this Microsoft Education Collaboration, where I would provide a document name saying rough draft for a project and put a description of what I want in there, hit create, and then all of a sudden everyone in the class has access to edit that document. So that's just another tool. So, I mean, as we sit here and we think about ways to improve things, pay attention to the stuff you already have. Check around before you go selecting new software. Find out what your current software can do. Okay. Because a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times your best answer is the simplest answer. And the simplest answer a lot of times is retraining people on the stuff that you have. Businesses have processes that they created 10, 15 years ago that everybody follows. Okay. I said this once in a class and I was told I was wrong, but I know for a fact I'm not wrong. So I don't really have Jan as an employee, so I can use Jan. Anyway, so Jan works for me, and I purchased new technology, and I have Jan trained how to use that technology. And she's taught by the people that make the technology. So she's getting the right education on it, right? She's being shown how to use it exactly the way it should be used for the processes that are being done with it. Now, let's say that I then use Jan to teach Fred. And Jan doesn't meet Fred for maybe a year. Okay. And all of a sudden I hire Fred. He comes in a year later. Jan has developed her own habits, shortcuts, different things like that that she does within this technology. Okay. All of a sudden, when she trains Fred, those shortcuts, those things that she's doing to bypass the typical process, the process that was chosen to be followed in a specific fashion for the most likelihood of success, she's developed bad habits, and she's going to train Fred, and he's going to have those habits embedded in his work at that point. And then somewhere down the road, Fred is going to teach someone else, and Fred is going to develop his own bad habits on top of Jan's bad habits. And it snowballs and it becomes this big problem. And then we think, oh my gosh, this process is terrible. We have to remap this process. We have to redo this process. But instead, take the time, sit down with the people, find out what the process is supposed to be, sit down with the people and see what they're actually doing. And you might find that they're not following the process, and that's why the technology isn't working. And that all of a sudden people are saying, we need something new to do this. There's ways of doing this other than just choosing new technology, is my point. Don't jump to that conclusion. Integration of technology can be extremely expensive. I have people in this class, I think, they're working in automotive industry. If you're in the automotive industry, one of the things that I know GM did and does in spits and spatters, and I think Toyota does it in that, but they'll pull companies like SAP in to edit their systems, to change them, to improve processes. That's very expensive. Technically, if you have somebody writing script, doing ABAP, ABAP is the language that you use to create new forms and stuff, and map processes and stuff like that in SAP. If you have somebody in-house that's always editing that and writing new forms and different things like that, you're going against the best practices of SAP. The best practices of SAP are the practices that should make your organization run more smoothly. The goal of SAP is that your organization flexes to meet SAP, not SAP flexing to meet your organization. Okay. And far too often, everyone's trying to customize SAP to fit their current processes because they don't want to change their way of doing things. SAP has all that stuff built into it. Change your process to work with the system. Don't change the system to work with your process, okay? Because your process might be wrong. It might be flawed. That might be where your inefficiency lies, is in your process. So if you redevelop or if you edit SAP to work with your current way of doing things, your current process, you might not be increasing efficiency and productivity at all because you're going against the system that is there to improve that for you through the integration of all the processes and stuff. So my point being is, think broadly. Don't spend a lot of time on minor details. Think broadly. Think about those key concepts. You know, how does it affect your employee? What is it actually doing for your processes? Is it a process that you're looking at improving, or is it something more communication-wise that you're looking at improving, or is it or is it collaboration that you're improving? Are you setting standards? Maybe it's just that, hey, we have people using Teams, Google Meet, Slack, all these different avenues requiring choosing one of those, doing a benefit analysis or a advantage disadvantage list or whatever of all those different tools that are currently being used, and saying, okay, people, enough of this. We need all of our communication to streamline into one application, and this is the application. And then once you do that, you're utilizing technology that's already there. You might have to train some people on how to use that technology because they've been not using it. But once you do that, that might fix your problem. Okay. And you have to follow through. You can't just force a change like that. And I'm going to put in quotes. You can't force a change like that and trust. You can't trust that people are going to follow through. You have to do 360s. You have to go back and you have to make sure that's what people are doing. Those are the thoughts I'm going to leave with you. When you make sure that people are actually doing or utilizing the new software, that's when you have to really determine things. And this is cybersecurity related 100% too, is you create policies, and those policies have to be followed. And whatever policies you create, you have to be willing to penalize people up to firing people. If you're not willing to penalize people or fire people for not following policies, then you shouldn't have them. Then you can't have requirements and stuff like that, because people are going to do whatever they want anyway. We were all kids once. We all know for a fact that as kids, we push the boundaries all the time. And can I tell you a secret? As adults, as we get comfortable in a workplace and stuff, we push boundaries. And, there are a lot of people in this world that live by the motto of it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. I'm going to do this until somebody tells me I can't. There's issues there. So now all of a sudden we have to be concerned with the policies. So I adopt software, I adopt technology, and how do I get people to utilize it? And I'm going to give you 3 things as parting knowledge from this lecture, and those 3 things I will talk about next lecture. But there are technology acceptance models. The technology acceptance model, the original one, is based off of psychological theory on intent to use. Okay. On like behavioral intent. And there was a guy, Goodhue, I think is the one that started it. And Goodhue was the author that did a study, and he created a technology acceptance model, TAM. And the technology acceptance model basically said that people accept and use technology based on 2 things: ease of use, or perceived ease of use, and perceived usefulness. Think to yourself how many times someone's shoved technology down your throat and you refuse to use it because you just don't think it's useful. It slows things down. It's cumbersome. It's blah, 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 right? It's happened with me. I know it's happened with you. It's happened with everybody. You're being forced to use a piece of technology, but I'm not going to accept that technology, and I'm going to do everything I can do to circumvent that technology. Years ago, when we moved into the computer realm, the older employees that weren't familiar with computers and that were still doing so many things by hand and so many things on their own and circumventing systems that it was creating such huge problems. Okay. And that was based on a lot of times on perceived usefulness. Um, but perceived ease of use, if I went by that, my God, I would never want to use like what is it, I-400 or some of these major ERP systems like SAP and God, I can't remember the one for IBM, but I think Oracle has one. But these systems, they are not the most user friendly. Perceived ease of use is through the floor. Everyone looks at it like, this ain't easy to use. Why am I doing this? So if those are the only reasons people accept things, or it increases likelihood of successful implementation, because successful implementation is not going to happen if people aren't actually going to use it based on perceived ease of use or perceived usefulness. Okay, so that was good, Hugh. And then why can't I remember there was another model that came out, which was TTF, Task Technology Fit. And that model wasn't based on perceptions of the end user, because that TAM is all end user perception. Okay. TTF, Task Technology Fit, was, does the task fit the technology, or does the technology fit the task that needs to happen? And if it does, I don't care what your perceptions are, you're using it, period. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you hate it. You're using it because it fits what we're asked it to do. Now, you got to remember, there's like 60 different pieces of software or technology that can perform the same action. Some of them are easier to use than others, and so on. You know, more intuitive, more user-friendly, all those other things that come into play. But sometimes it's not that the organization is looking at. They're looking at task, technology, fit. The technology fits the task. Enough said. Other things are considered in there, like budget and stuff like that. So all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't care if it's the easiest thing to use. We'll deal with it because it's the cheapest thing to use. So there's that. And then Dillon and Morris, I think it was, that came out with P3 is another acceptance model. And P3 is power, performance, and perception. First of all, it has to be powerful, and it has to be and it has to perform well. So power is how performance is how efficiently it performs a task. Power is how quickly, basically how strong is this piece of software to perform the task, right? And then that perception pulls in that Goodhue model of technology acceptance model of perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness. I'll end up putting these articles out there next week, but if you ever get a chance, P3, technology acceptance model, task technology fit, acceptance model, and just the standard TAM, technology acceptance model. Those three, if you get a chance, read up on them. Look at some charts about them, and that it might help explain some of the stuff, especially if you work in the technical area and stuff, and you're in charge of integrating technology in that. And those models, again, don't guarantee successful implementation of something, but they improve the likelihood of successful implementation. If you can get user buy-in, end user buy-in on software or technology, it's a lot easier to integrate that into a system, believe it or not. So anyway, that's what I'm leaving you with. I have went way over. If you make it to the end of this, send me a message. Sorry about last week's video. Some of that stuff just got rolled right back into this lecture to cover it. It was just comparing and contrasting different video systems, but I did it again. But I talked about it in a different way. So anyway, that's this. And I am going to end this stream and edit the video and post it. Have a good day.